If you're in the splash zone, you're gonna get wet.
Devonte Campbell with a love tap.
Lucky he didn't get a call there. Oh, my man took it in the chin. Ouch.
The people on the sidelines, well, they aren't quite the specimens that football players are. Let's take a look at 10 of the worst sideline collisions involving unsuspecting people. Starting off with the most recent occurrence, which we saw take place with Las Vegas Raiders superstar wide receiver Devonte Adams. His Raiders had just finished yet another crushing defeat, which is becoming an all-too-familiar trend in the Josh McDaniels era. Granted, this one was at the hand of the Chiefs, which is a bit more respectable. But nevertheless, Adams is a competitor, and he was furious with the result. So much so that when he was departing the field, he spiked his helmet on the ground and shoved a cameraman that crossed his path. To make matters worse for Adams, the television cameras were following him off the field, and his explosion of frustration was captured live for the entire world to see.
Some guy running off the field, and he ran, jumped in front of me. We coming off the field, and I bumped into him and kind of pushed him, and then he ended up on the ground, so I want to say sorry to him.
Adams was charged with misdemeanor assault, which seemed to be more of a money grab than anything. Though Adams' intent was a little more nefarious, he is not the only NFL player to have a run-in with a sideline cameraman. Actually, in this case, a camera woman. The incident took place during an AFC North grudge match between the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Lamar Jackson, as he's one to do, was scrambling around. And just as he was making his way to the sideline, he took a cheap shot from a Steelers defender and went hurling into a woman kneeling with camera equipment in hand. Now, by NFL standards, Lamar is not a big guy, but considering how fast he moves and the added momentum of the surprise shove from behind, well, it's safe to say that this shoulder to the chest could not have felt great for the poor woman.
Not many guys do that. Why is that something that it's important to you to do?
Because they're human beings too, and I know we moving fast, get physical out there on the field, and we come at full speed, and she's sitting down, taking pictures. I know that kind of hurt it, so I had to make sure she was all right.
Did you say anything to her? What did you say?
No, I just rubbed her head because it looked like I hit her head. Yeah.
Did you see the picture that she got of the play?
Yeah, the stiff arm. It was her with the picture. I just told her it was a great shot. I actually DM'd her and asked was she okay, and I told her that was a great pick. Yeah.
Is she doing okay?
Yeah, she told me she was fine. Yeah.
Adams and Jackson are certainly not the only players involved in railroading unsuspecting NFL photographers that are caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. In fact, a few years ago, we saw the Washington, then football team, tight end Ricky Seals-Jones have a nasty collision with one of the sideline photographers that he himself had to be carted off the field as well. Seals-Jones had broken into a full sprint, trying to track down a floating pass from quarterback Taylor Heineke in the back of the end zone. Unfortunately for Jones, he was unable to haul in the pass, and worst of all, his momentum carried him right into the camera person. And though the collision didn't look that bad in real time, it was an extremely awkward angle when Seals-Jones hurt his neck and ultimately had to be taken off the field on a backboard. The cameraman, while rattled, actually got the better of the situation and was somehow able to go back to work after the fact. On the bright side, the young tight end's injury didn't end up being too serious, but all in all, a very scary moment for all parties involved. Perhaps the only people that are regularly posted up on NFL sidelines that have gotten it worse over the years than the good folks that make up the camera crew are the sound guys. I mean, check out what happened to one of them back in 2016, when he didn't realize that the Vikings players were in the midst of their team entrance ahead of a Week 11 matchup with the Arizona Cardinals. Ooh, this man was absolutely stampeded. It was a scene straight out of The Lion King. Now, he did ultimately end up shaking it off and working the rest of the game, but you have to think that he wished he timed that dash a little bit better. Or at the very least, he probably wishes that the Vikings would have had some smaller players lead the initial charge out of the tunnel. A defensive tackle like Linval Joseph plowing over you is realistically one of the worst possible outcomes. 6 foot 4 inches and 330 pounds of muscle hopped up on pre-game adrenaline, not to mention his near sub 5-second 40 time. Minnesota should have had Sam Bradford leading the charge just in case. While the incident in Minnesota was somewhat avoidable, there have been a couple of other sound guy collisions that were more bang-bang. Like during this Bengals-Cowboys game in 2022, when Jamar Chase got pushed into one of CBS's sound guys who was inconveniently set up right where the speedy wideout was chased out of bounds at the end of his run. Luckily, the medical staff was able to attend to him swiftly, but the sound guy did end up with some blood on his face as a result of the collision. Have to imagine that when you're locked in, doing whatever it is that a sound guy does with that giant cone-looking thing, that the last thing you expect is to have it come flying back into your face. Whew. Tough break for this unsuspecting person. Now, it isn't just production that are at risk on Sundays, though. We've even seen NFL coaches find themselves on the wrong side of these collisions. And more often than not, it's one of the older coaches, who, generally speaking, are not very well suited to taking that kind of beating. I mean, just ask Wade Phillips, the longtime NFL coach who was on the wrong end of a scary collision when he was the defensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos back in 2016. His Broncos were squaring up in a divisional matchup with the Chargers, and he was watching with excitement when his cornerback, Bradley Roby, snagged an interception. The action, however, continued away from the play, and the Chargers player went flying into Phillips. Yikes. Talk about a scary scene. People were fearing the worst when the elderly coach was carted off the field, only getting slight relief when he reportedly wagged his finger on the way off the field. Thankfully, Phillips ended up being alright, only breaking one rib. But man, that could have been bad. In classic Wade Phillips fashion, he was good-spirited about the whole ordeal, even taking to Twitter to crack a couple of good-natured jokes about the incident. Next up, we travel across the pond to London for a 2022 matchup between the Green Bay Packers and New York Giants. The game itself stunned a lot of people. No one expected the Giants to knock off Rodgers & Co., especially not in such a convincing fashion. In a way, the Giants snuck up on an unsuspecting Green Bay team, kind of like New York's quarterback Daniel Jones did to this poor bloke posted up on the sidelines. That is some solid contact. Helmet too. Well, would-be helmet to boot too. Not only did that unsuspecting spectator take a shot to the dome, he was knocked to the ground in a rather devastating fashion. People forget because he's such an understated character in many ways, but Denny Dimes is a solid 6 foot 5 inches and 230 plus pounds, who ran a 4.7 40-yard dash at the combine. And not only was he going full speed toward the sideline, he also took a hit that further propelled him toward the Elton John lookalike. At least he wasn't blindsided, which is more than we can say for the NFL security guard that was positioned in the back of the end zone during this Las Vegas Raiders-Arizona Cardinals game. Really, just a tough situation for that security guard. He had to have his back to the action because his primary responsibility is to monitor the crowd. And the next thing he knows, he's getting rolled up by Zach Ertz, who is an absolute mountain of a man. Maybe the NFL should rethink its strategy here. I understand that the security guard's primary responsibility is to monitor the crowd, but it seems like a major liability to have your people lined up that close to the end zone with their backs to the action.
Thomas with the block, and he cuts the corner. And James here pushes him out of bounds and into our parabolic mic guy.
Considering how quickly these plays transpire in real time, I'm not going to go as far as to suggest that he'd have the wherewithal to dodge the Mack truck coming at his kneecaps, but still, it couldn't have hurt to at least see it coming. At least then he'd have been able to subconsciously brace for impact instead of being completely blindsided to the ground. Oh well, hopefully he at least gets a nice workers' comp check out of that NFL. Speaking of people that are due to be getting settlement checks from the NFL soon, how about the cheerleaders down in the nation's capital? And the wipeout that one of them had back in 2016 as a result of an incoming Kirk Cousins. Ooh, look at that. Cousins basically turned into a 220-pound human shuffleboard puck with the way he skitched towards the poor unsuspecting cheerleader, who was only just trying to get through her routine. It is kind of low-key crazy how he just sort of glided across the ground, though. I can kind of see why the cheerleaders didn't expect him to make it all the way to her. He must have cleared like 10 feet on that ride the Panthers defender sent him on. Last but not least, we take a visit to the Big Easy, where the slant king, Michael Thomas, did what he does best, and made a catch after a route that went no further than 15 yards down the field. He snagged the pass maybe 3-4 yards from the sideline and took a big hit from a Texans defender coming over the top, sending him hurling towards a small crowd of people. But instead of going down, he somehow maintained his balance and tried to run through it. only to find himself accidentally truck sticking the ball boy. Talk about a monster hit. And leave it to can't guard Mike to not even bother trying to help the guy up or anything. He just gets up and walks away like nothing happened. Unbelievable. But which do you think was the worst sideline collision in an NFL game? Was there anyone that we missed? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.